Welcome to the Dog Ate My Strategy Show. 30 minutes of entertainment, laughs and thought-provoking stories. Real people are going to drop in to share their funniest, wildest and most surprising stories about finding success and happiness at work. We will have a regular panel alongside some special guests ready to unravel topics such as AI, climbing the career ladder and making the leap to start your own business. Plus plenty more surprises along the way. Get ready to make this coffee, lunch break or dog walk one you'll never forget. This is the Dog Ate My Strategy Show. Well, welcome to the second show. We've actually made it through episode 1 and we're on to episode 2. And first of all, let me introduce the glorious panel. So we have David Johnson.
Hi Gary, great to be here again.
And we have the lovely Emma B.
Hey everyone, welcome in.
And we have Paul the Raven Raver.
Hello everyone.
Excellent. So thank you panel for joining us. I know that you're all busy people. And what's good is we had some fantastic feedback. I'm just going to talk about it in a minute. But I'd like to thank all the listeners who have retuned in as well, because there's lots of podcasts to listen to, so thank you for doing that. And for people who've just tuned in as well, so that's brilliant. So we've had lots of emails in, mostly from people on the motorways listening to the show. So I'm just going to read out the motorway they were on. So Chris on the M4 really liked it. Ellie on the M62 said it made her laugh quite a lot. James on the M25 says he enjoyed it, but he still doesn't know what the show's all about, and I'm going to address that. We had Ruth on the A1, who says it took her 3 journeys listening to it, and she really enjoyed it. And Kate on the M6, who listened to it all in one go, and says, great start, guys. So thank you, and thank you for taking time to write in. So people ask me, what is the show about? Because there's a bit of entertainment, there's some funny stories, you've got guests on. So I believe, and I know that the team believe, that anything is possible in life. If you're capable of knowing what you can do, brilliant. But lots of people do not understand how capable they are. And so what we're going to do over the next few weeks and months is bringing people who've gone through that mindset of not really knowing how capable they are, but have actually done different things. And there's different reasons, different motivations behind that, but they've made a huge difference to other people, and mainly they've made a huge difference to their own lives. So what we also want to do is not just be a theoretical academic show, but we want to give you practical ideas. We want to help you silence that negativity and challenge your current mindsets. So all the guests are specially chosen. They've all made big decisions in their life. They've either developed new skills or used the talents in a different way that have brought new opportunities. And most of all, these people are just like me and you, so there's no big sports stars, no big movie stars. They're people that have gone through that self-doubt, that frustration of things aren't quite right, what do I do? So you'll be hearing more from these guests over the next few weeks. Okay, so I must apologise, guys, as well, because we did hit the top 100 and got to rank 97. We could have got higher, but as you know, I suffer from surface dyslexia, and when I went in to categorise the show, instead of going careers, I put carers. So I'd like to thank all the carers who inadvertently listened to the show last time and were hoping to listen to maybe some tips on mobility assistance, but unfortunately heard David talk about the cheese story. So thank you anyway for anybody from the carers world who listened in, and I have now addressed that, and we have got some proper categorisation around business and careers. Now, we also have another letter, so we've had plenty of correspondence, which is good. So I'm just going to read this out. So this is an email from Darren. So Darren's a bit like Gary. I don't think there's many of us left. I think there's a decline in people naming their children Darren, Gary and Wayne. So I'll just read this out. It says, Dear Dog Ate My Strategy Show, never thought I would be using those words in an email. I wanted to email you to say how surprised I was with the first show. Thank you. I saw a post advertising on LinkedIn and thought I would give it a listen while I was travelling up to Birmingham on the train. So not a motorway listener there, somebody actually listening on a train. 45 minutes seemed to pass very quickly. I enjoyed the stories and found the episode a good distraction distraction in life. Maybe that's what we should call it, a good distraction in life. However, I'm still unsure about what the show's about. Well, hopefully I've addressed that. I also checked out 3 of you on LinkedIn. I don't think Paul's actually on LinkedIn. And found out that you all have a financial background. It says,
Well,
do you have someone helping you write the material for the show, or are you breaking the mould of finance people and have suddenly become socially entertaining? Well, thank you.
Well,
Darren. Obviously, Darren...
yes. How do we respond to that then, Gary?
I don't know. Well, let me just carry on. It says, I don't want to be disrespectful, so there you are, David, to finance people in general, but the ones in our organisation just seem to spend hours staring at spreadsheets on multiple screens and very rarely leave their desk to socialise. I hope the rest of the show goes well. Darren from Reading. Well, there you go. There's a bit of stereotyping going on.
Well, I said lovely leather, and as you say, we do things differently as management accountants, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think there's quite a challenge in that. So what I thought I'd do, if you don't mind, and this is totally unrehearsed, is I think that we need to sort of prove to Darren that I call in this section, is there life beyond spreadsheets? So what I've done is I put together some questions covering all kinds of topics, including music, nights out, sport and streaming. So let's test the panel who all have a financial background on whether they're stuck in the balance sheets or whether they all have a life. Right, team. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. We have no buzzers or anything like that, so we've got to be vocal about this. So what I want you to do is do surname and location. So, for example, it would be Johnson, Somerset or Glastonbury, whichever you want to use.
Johnson, Glastonbury it will be.
Okay, thank you, David. Very formally said. And I think Paul and Emma can cope with that. So you can play along. Be careful if you're driving on one of the M roads I've mentioned, by the way. Just concentrate while you're listening. If you're on a train or you sat down, then please play along. Okay, so is everybody ready?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, question 1. What is the sum of all the Adele album titles?
Oh, Johnson, Glastonbury.
Yes,
Well,
Johnson, Glastonbury.
Well, I remember, I think the most recent one, I was there when she performed in Glastonbury. The sum is 95, I believe, Gary. I think if you're 19, 21, 25 and 30. So that's 95.
Wow. I am so shocked that you actually got that right, David, but well done. Of course, anybody that listened last time knows that David is from Glastonbury, and because he lives in the village, he gets, I think, do you get a free invite every year to the festival, David?
Not a free invite, Gary. We have to pay our way, but we do get ticket.
Okay, but tax deductible. Anyway, right, we'll move on. So, question 2, a little harder, right? So don't forget surname and location. Name 2 films Emily Blunt has been in.
Can I phone a friend?
All right, then. We'll make...
I'm going to go for The Assignment. No, I've got it wrong. Raven Brighton's out. Sorry.
Right, that's you frozen out. So this is going to be real easy, David and Emma. 1 film Emily Blunt's been in.
We need to get a life as far as films are concerned, Gary.
Okay, right. Okay, so you could have had, right, you'll kick yourself on these, The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh.
Mary Poppins Returns. Probably one of her best films, A Quiet Place 1 and 2. Girl on a Train. I'll try to give clues earlier on about that. The Edge of Tomorrow, which had Tom Cruise in. Into the Woods, The Adjustment Bureau, The Smashing Machine, The Fall Guy, Oppenheimer. Come on, that should have been one for you,
dear.
Paul and David.
Stop the pain,
Right, okay.
Gary. Move on. Next question.
All right. Question 3. Right, who won the Premier League last season?
Raven Brighton. It was Liverpool, or as I put it, the team that cannot be mentioned.
Okay, we've got Johnson won. We've got Paul Raven won, and we've got Emma Non. Sorry, I'm getting you confused with film star Emily Blunt there, Emma. I'm sure, Emma, you'll get this right. Okay. Right. Question 4. The price of a glass of wine or a pint of lager in a pub?
Raven Brighton. I'm going to go with about £5. But depends.
Johnson, Glastonbury. £4.20.
Now, which is that? Is that for lager or wine? Because it's two different prices.
Oh, you wanted us to give you two different. Oh, the lager would be £4.20. £4.20 lager.
Blimey, that must be cheap where you are, David.
I'll go
I've got a
£5
range.
for the
You go £5 for the lager. Okay, Paul. Okay, so Paul's nearest. The average is around £5.50 to about £7, depending where you are. So we're obviously coming down to Glastonbury to drink. Emma, what about a glass of wine? What do you think?
£1.95, depending on the size, but I reckon that.
I'd say £6.50. Johnson Glastonbury, £6.50.
Raven Brighton will go middle of the road and say about £7.50 to £8.
Well, Emma, just a clarification, Emma. What were yours?
95.
£8.95. Now, is that for a medium glass or a large glass? And is it red or white wine?
I would have said probably a small glass, so we'll go with a medium glass, and that is likely to be white.
Okay, Emma is out, unfortunately. If she'd have gone large and red, Emma would have had a score on the door. Okay, so the last one, chance to redeem yourself, Emma. Don't feel the pressure.
Did I tell you I was never any good at quiz questions? I say these to people all the time. I think, never mind.
This is easy, right? This is easy. Name any Netflix or Paramount TV show.
Barker Bath, Netflix Wednesday.
Excellent. We'll give you that. Thank you, Emma. So everybody scored, which is good. And what I'm going to say, if you didn't actually get any score, then you are spending far too much time with your head in spreadsheets.
Well, we might be fitting the mould of the perception of accountants if we haven't got anything right.
I'm a bit worried that Darren could be on the right track. But anyway, we'll move on. So the one thing that I did learn is Glastonbury obviously has lots of cheaper lager and wine. So if anybody does want a night out, Glastonbury is the place to go. Okay, team, thanks for that. As you can tell, it was very spontaneous, and you can tell that by the very poor answers on some of those questions. I always found that we could learn so much from people in other professions, even in other sectors. We all face a lot of the same challenges, even though we're offering a different type of technical skills. Today we have a very special guest who faces daily challenges in a high-pressured environment, while her decision-making and ability to keep people calm are very critical in her role. So welcome today, Natalie McQuire. So thank you for coming in, Natalie.
No problem.
And Natalie is a veterinary surgeon. She's a director at Sandbeck Veterinary Centre in Wetherby. She trained at the Royal Veterinary College and is an advanced practitioner in dermatology. She's also a visi vet, and this can consist of consultations, dentistry, radiography, ultrasound and general surgery. So quite a lot within there. And as well as leading the practice at the same time. So welcome, Natalie. I know you're very busy, and I'm really grateful that you've come along today. And I'm sure there's lots that our listeners can get out of you talking about sort of day in the life or a week in the life of being a veterinary surgeon. But first of all, Natalie, can we just go back a bit? So what inspired you to be a vet? Was it something that you wanted to do earlier on, or something that developed over your life?
I was always, I think, wanting to be a vet. There's a photo of me when I was a little toddler with a toy doctor's kit and my cat. I feel a bit sorry for the poor cat now, but it's something that I think I've always wanted to do. Certainly my colleagues at university weren't always the same. Some of them came to it a little bit later, but as a kid I was animal mad, played with soft, fluffy toy cats. Neighbours had ponies, so I was round there helping pick up poo in the middle of a field in the rain, and it sort of has always stayed with me. There's other bits that I sort of deviated to as I went through school and thought I wanted to be a police officer at one point, and went through a phase of that and still went back to veterinary.
That's very interesting. Police officer as well, so that would be maybe horses, dog handler.
I think when I discovered ponies, I was like, oh, this is great. I just want to, now it was all about horses, so then I was like, I could be a mounted police officer or a dog handler, but it was still always animals.
So when you left school then, what do you do to become a vet? Because obviously I come from a business background, so So leaving school, what qualifications do you need, and where do you go from there to learn those skills and get that qualification?
I think I probably had to be a little bit of a geek at school. I was fortunate that I was good and enjoyed the subjects that I needed. So I've always had a very sort of scientific brain. Languages and English was definitely not a strong point. And I really enjoyed sort of all the science subjects at school. Did those at A-level and then got the grades to get straight into vet school. They don't just look at grades, they also expect some work experience. So through my A-level years, I was again off milking cows and looking at sheep farms and helping out at veterinary practices and anything that you can kind of get to sort of strengthen your case if you do get offered an interview. And I think they quite like it as well because they can then see that you sort of understand what you're getting yourself in for and that you do kind of understand the industry at least a little bit before you've embark on quite a long university degree.
So how long's the degree then? And what's the training?
It's a 5-year degree. The first couple of years are a lot more academic, so you sort of need to learn about all the body systems, how they all work, what's normal. Then when it goes wrong and all the different sort of medical conditions, going through then into your 3rd, 4th, 5th year, it's a lot more sort of practical based. You have to go and spend time in various clinics, working under other vets, out in practice, where you hopefully, depending on the placements, get a chance to do some surgeries under very, very close supervision, because if you go wrong, it's on the head of the veterinary surgeon that's let you do whatever they're doing. So it's a combination really of, the bits you learn at university and then the bits you can learn on placements going through that degree. But 5-year degree, same as doctors and dentists.
Wow, that's quite heavy then, a combination of sort of academic and then having to get some practical experience. So what's the next step when you left college?
We're a little bit different to doctors because they have sort of, I guess, their residencies and they go through sort of various stages before they get to the consultant stage. And we're let loose into the world. There's a lot more support now, actually, than when I graduated. There was a weekly publication, there were jobs in the back. You sent your CV to kind of your local veterinary practices if there was an area in the country you wanted to work in. The vets that take you on understand that you'll be a bit green and will need some mentoring and pay you less as a result. You kind of just go from there.
A bit like a resident vet, but we won't go into the...
So it's a little bit of a baptism of fire. The first month is tough. You go through the whole university degree saying to your lecturers, I think it's this that's the problem with this animal, and they go, oh no, you're wrong. And then you graduate and you get put in your appointments and you say to the clients, I think it's this wrong with your animal. And they go, really? And you go, oh goodness, all of a sudden I need to get this right. You're often not on your own. You've got colleagues that you're working with. Even if you're in the middle of an appointment, you can just sort of pop out to go speak to so-and-so because it's a case with a bad ear and so-and-so really likes ears. Doesn't matter if they like ears or not, but you can sort of go and sort of pick someone's brain and sort of say, I've got this and this is what's going on with it and we've tried this medication and help. And they'll often sort of help you through. And now the tables have turned and people are coming to me to sort of ask me for my advice sometimes.
And do you get people now with the internet's a good and a bad thing. Do you get people coming like they go to doctors where they've done their own diagnosis and go, I brought Humphrey in and I've been having a look on the internet and I've looked at the symptoms and I'm pretty sure this is what's wrong with it. Do you get lots of people doing their own self-diagnosis now given availability of information?
A lot of that. Sometimes it can be really useful because you can give them the medical condition and they can go away and actually take their time to sort of think about it and digest it and look through sort of what that is. And it's quite nice sometimes when the internet is agreeing with everything that you've recommended and sort of supporting what you said in the appointment. Sometimes it's totally different to what's wrong with the pet, but you can usually then go, okay, it's not this because of these reasons, it doesn't fit these sort of criteria. You do get a demographic of people that believe what they've seen on social media and will stick by that decision, and that is right, and nothing that I will say will persuade them otherwise, which is sometimes a little bit frustrating, because you sort of think, well, who's put that on social media? Because I've got scientific research that's completely disproven that, but you just hit a brick wall, and sometimes you just need to think, you know what, you do you. It's not doing any harm. We're fine. We just need to move on, and we're never going to win that argument.
Yeah, I think it's true in a lot of professions. If we just go back, when you were studying and obviously learning lots of technical skills, what skills did you develop, and which skills were ones what were a surprise to you, where you're thinking, God, I wish I'd known a little bit more about this skill at veterinary school?
The veterinary schools have a very hard job. They have a lot of information that they need to try and teach. Where we were 18 when we went in, very young individuals, and kind of develop them over these 5 years so they can come out and stand on their own 2 feet. So there's a vast sort of, I guess, clinical side of it, and they can do as much as they can possibly cram into that time. They've got to teach you the people skills, how to cope with clients, how to put all the information and all the scientific stuff together. And they've taught it in these lovely technical words that you then need to translate back to layman's terms. And then I guess there's the business side of it as well, which is something that they will sort of, I guess, try and include in the course. So you've got an awareness of, at some point, you might need to step into those roles, but you can't, people go and do a whole degree on how to manage a business. You just can't fit all that into a degree where the primary purpose of it is to treat their patients.
What's a good day then in your practice? What would you say, when you finish, probably late on an evening, what would be a good day for Natalie then?
One where I get to go home early. I guess, it's a job like any other, and we all like our time off, but a good day. I guess I do enjoy being busy. You want your day to be full. Yeah. Otherwise, as in probably 99.9% of jobs out there, if you're having a slow day, the day goes a lot more slowly. And having that sort of steady stream coming through, everything kind of runs as it should be, coming in and out. Then there's the other extreme where it can get a bit too busy, and that's probably not very pleasant either. It doesn't take a lot to upset the apple cart. You only need 1 or 2 emergencies, things that are more complicated, a couple of extra surgeries on the list, and all of a sudden you're sort of chasing your tail and you're not getting your lunch breaks and you are leaving later than you wanted to. And it's sometimes a bit of a nice one to sort of step out the door and go, okay, yeah, I'm kind of glad that day's over and done with, and it was a bit of a stressful one, and go home and chill out for a bit and do it all again the next day.
Yeah, but different in your profession is, somebody could come to me and go, yeah, we've looked at these forecasts, we don't agree, and that can disrupt my day, and probably lots of other people who do any finance or marketing. But your day, somebody could come in with a real emergency, and where you have to assess what needs to be done, and you have to make instant decisions. So how do you cope with that?
I mentioned to my mum I was doing this podcast, and she said, you are totally the wrong person for this, because I think I deal with stress quite well. My sister, who's a human nurse, is the polar opposite, and she will have a stressful situation and dwell on it for the next 24, 48 hours, not sleep, have to phone her colleagues to ask how that patient was if she's not back at work. I think you do need to sometimes take a bit of a step back when you've got situations like that and say, we can only do what we can do. And sometimes, unfortunately, it is in the hands of the gods. We have got the beauty of having had that training, but it's kind of remembering not to panic in those situations and just do one thing at once. And I think there's a phrase, isn't there? Less haste, more speed, or something. And it is very true that if you're trying to sort of rush and do things and throwing things around, and you get stressed and then your team gets stressed, and it just kind of ends up being a lot harder than it sometimes needs to be. Whereas if you just sort of do take a breath and go, okay, what are my priorities? Sometimes getting an intravenous access so I can get the drugs in the animal making sure that it is breathing. Okay, yes, it might have a leg that's swinging in the breeze, but that's not so much of a priority because it will still be swinging in the breeze tomorrow, and as long as the rest of your animal's okay, then you sort of get to that bit when you need to.
But that is the hardest skill, and I think my observations from watching lots of people, in business life, is they can't do that detachment sometimes. It's that, when the emotion takes over, and then it's the way they act, they behave, and the way that they just make a quick decision, which is based on just how they're feeling now with everything going on, instead of, like you said, is you have to turn that into a structured approach of, right, first thing, I like that where you say, look, the leg's still hanging off, so don't be just too distracted with that. But what we need to do is go through now a structured approach of, get the drugs in to get the animal comfortable, and then the next thing. So
yeah, it's very easy to focus on the thing that's staring you in the face.
Yeah.
But actually, is your animal breathing and has it got a heartbeat are probably the priorities. And I think a lot of that does come to the fact that, I do have several years of experience, and I've been fortunate to work under people who have got more experience than me, and you sort of look at how they deal with these cases. And some of it is, unfortunately, having to deal with them and learning as you go along. I was the stressed person that was not in control of the situation, probably for several years. And the more you do it, the more you sort of think, okay, yeah, I've dealt with something like this before, it's okay. And if it's not okay, there's probably nothing that I can do that's going to change that situation.
I mean, that's really good self-management and self-awareness. And I think it's great that, because lots of people go, I'm always like this, I was like this from day one, but I don't think it's true. I think people who are really good at that say that it takes time to get into that mode of working.
Yeah.
And you need confidence in yourself, and you need to say flapping around now is not going to do any good, what do I do? And then you sort of can get to a point where you can put it on an autopilot, so that first time that you're doing it and thinking, well, should I be going faster, should I be doing this? You say, no, actually, this is going to get a better outcome if I just, like it says, work a bit slower, a bit more methodical. And then once you can switch that onto an autopilot mode, then that must be...
Deal with the pressing issue first, sort that out, move on to the next one.
And this sounds great in theory, but your clients are different. These are people who really invest lots of love into the animals. So how important is communication, especially where you might have to explain real complex treatments, or you might not quite be sure what's going on and might need to do further testing? You've got somebody who's really emotional about it. So how do you communicate, and what do you do to really sort of calm people down, Natalie?
I think it's incredibly important, and it's not always just the clients as well, it's your team, and there's so many different aspects of it that you need to be aware of. I am quite fortunate that I have put myself on communication workshops and things, various ones. One was dealing with people of different personality types, and that's just kind of realising that with your team, some people work in different ways to others, and that the job will still get done even if they're not doing it the way that you want to do it. I think dealing with clients, just talking to them, and you sort of have to make sure that they understand what you're saying, and some people will get it, they've just got a bit more of a medical brain. Some of them might be medical themselves and you can just throw a load of jargon at them. Other people will not get it, and it's drawing pictures and pointing to bits and going back on the internet, and sort of there's YouTube videos. Sometimes people come in and go, my dog's doing this, and you're like, it's great, it's fine. Go watch this YouTube video, because you'll see loads of other dogs doing it, and it's not something to worry about. And when they're stressed, I think just giving them time to kind of process what you're saying. And if people are upset, realising that they're not necessarily upset at you, just at the situation. Yeah. And even if people are sort of angry, sometimes it's not your fault, it's just that's how they've expressed that emotion.
I think it's really interesting that you've studied sort of people characteristics, and you do an assessment of people to work out how to communicate back to them, thinking, it might be Gary, you might say, Gary's really geeky, so I can throw a few technical things. Not that, but it'll be okay. Whereas you're saying somebody else might come in, and they're struggling trying to understand what you're going to do. So you probably have a different approach depending on the different character, different person.
Yeah. And some people want lots of information. Some people want, take these pills twice a day, come back in a week and we'll see how you're doing. And then it's on me to make sure that I know the condition and I know the medication, and I can then check whether it's working or not, and not rely on them to sort of say, oh yes, I still haven't seen an improvement.
I think that's a really important point. I think that's a massive crossover between what you do in a business, is that everybody has different needs and it's not one size fits all. And you just have to work out how you flex what you're communicating to whoever's listening so that they get the most benefit of what you're trying to say, or can ask questions back. So another question I'm going to ask you is, we spoke about the vet side of it, which is a lot of skilled work and skilled assessment of dealing with lots of difficult situations, but you also run a business as well. So what's it like having a vet where you've got all this situation you've described, which sound very high pressured a lot of the time, and then you've got the business side of it? So how does that work from your point of view of spending time doing that business side, when obviously the priority is around the veterinary services that you're providing?
I guess it's kind of a different thing. When you're in your consulting room with your clients and your patients, you're being a vet. I'm very fortunate that I have 4 other business partners, so we take a big share between us of responsibilities, and we all have our own areas that we manage. So one of my business partners is brilliant with the financial side, so he deals with all of that, and we all kind of trust each other to do that and to do it well. So I don't really need to worry at all about whether I've put the right receipts in, or
what's tax deductible, Natalie?
Yeah, don't have a clue. Yeah. That is his role. We've got another guy that deals with all the stock. Another colleague who is phenomenal with people and HR, which is brilliant because that's my weakness.
I don't believe that for 1 minute. But...
you would if you worked with me long enough. I deal with holidays and rota and spreadsheets, and that's much more kind of appeals to my personality type. So in that side, I guess we all can just do our little bits of it when we've got free time. We get a little bit of allocated admin time and can just sort of dip into it as long as the job gets done. There's no real pressure to have it done within a certain time frame, and we're all pretty motivated, so it generally isn't an issue with deadlines. The other side of, I guess, running the business is that the rest of the team come and ask for advice. So it's just having that ability, I guess, if you're in the middle of something, that you will sometimes get people coming to you and having to pick your brains, and usually it is something that is a relatively quick answer, or if it's not, you'll say, okay, right, I'll need to deal with that later, can you add it to my to-do list or something? But sometimes you're mid-surgery and you will have 2 or 3 people queuing out the door with various questions, and you just have a bit of a giggle about it, and they're all appreciate that you're trying to concentrate on something else, and so you just sort of, they might get a slightly half-assed answer back in return, and if they don't get the answer they want, they'll come back and ask you again later. But we're a small enough team that we all get on pretty well, which helps.
I like that floating help desk. It's like I do my job, but I'm a floating help desk. So I just take a number.
Yeah, and there's usually more than one of us in the building, so if I was really having to concentrate on what I was doing, I would have to tell them to get lost and ask me later, or ask someone else, and they would understand.
So it's one of these jobs where there's an emotional weight that you're carrying. So how do you switch off from that then?
I think having a hobby is essential, maybe in any job. Even when I was, I think, at university and studying, there's still, you have your social life with your mates at that point, and then all of a sudden you're sort of living on your own when you're in your first job, and having something that wasn't about animals or veterinary, that was totally different. And I've had various hobbies through my working career. Salsa dancing, rock climbing, learned to fly an airplane and got a pilot's license.
Can we just go back? So a bit of salsa dancing.
Actually, the first one was flying.
Or flying?
Yeah. So I lived near an RAF base that took civilian clients as well, I guess, because it helped them keep the costs down, and had flying lessons and learnt to fly little light aircraft.
So you have to look on the back field. That doesn't happen to be your
No. Unfortunately, the price of fuel now has paid to that that hobby just a tad. So we've gone for slightly more cost-effective hobbies now.
Do you find that people come to you, that find out you're a vet, and after a while they start off with a genuine conversation, and then after a while they're throwing in, I've got this cavapushin who's got this slight itch that won't go away. Do people tend to do that?
I think people are so scared of doing it and worried that people will do it all the time that nobody really does. And if I've got friends and I know they've got pets, I'll always sort of say, you can ask. And as a general rule, even if I'm on holiday somewhere, if I'm sat on a sun lounger, if I don't have to get off that sun lounger to help you with your dog, then I'm winning. People say, I'm so sorry you're on holiday. It's like, I'm fine. I've still got my pina colada. The sun is still shining. I've switched from reading my book to sending a text message. It's not an issue. And it's nice to help people as well, especially if they're your mates.
Excellent. So this has been so insightful, and there's lots of crossovers between decisions you have to make and how you manage yourself to what people do across multiple businesses. Going forward, what does the future hold for you then, Natalie? I mean, are you going to carry on in the veterinary business? Are you going to start to be start your own chartered flights, or a sort of flying doctors type thing in Yorkshire? I mean, what's it going to be like in the future for Natalie?
I've got to the point that I'm pretty happy where I am. It has taken a long time, and various different jobs that I've been through prior to this one had their own challenges and their own pressures, but I learnt a lot from them. The best bit of advice somebody ever gave me was to take my comfy blanket off, because I was at a practice that I'd been at for 5 years and it was nice and I knew all the clients, and I was saying, I don't want to move to the bigger site and do more management because all these people like me and we've built up a really nice thing here, and I got told to take my comfy blanket off. That's what I did, and that's kind of where I got to a position where I'm kind of pretty cool with it, and I think I'll probably stay here for several years to come.
Can I just say that was a brilliant way to end this conversation, coming out of your comfort zone. Because especially lots of people in professions do that. I know lots of people, marketing, accountants, legal professions, and they get established and they get in that zone and everything's okay. But you forget that you've got more capability, more that you can offer. And it's only through experiencing different things that you find out, I can do that, or I'm comfortable doing that, and I've been doing something new for 2 years, and this is a strength now. So I think that's a really important message to anybody in any profession, is if you're feeling too comfortable, ask yourself what you could do to actually build new capability, or what would happen if that safety net went away? How would you cope with that? Are you prepared to cope with that? So thank you, Natalie, for coming along today.
No problem.
It's been fantastic to hear about your story, but also about what it's like to be a veterinary surgeon and what you have to cope with and how you've developed skills to do that, which is excellent. And also to be a business owner. And if anybody's got any spreadsheet issues, then I'll be giving out Natalie's address, because I bet she's very good on spreadsheets, even though she says she only does this a little bit. But thank you, Natalie, and good luck with everything that you do as
Thank
well.
you very
and
much.
I'll look for your low flying plane as it goes across Yorkshire when the fuel prices drop.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so thank you, Natalie.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's been a few hours since my interview with Natalie. Some fantastic insights that cross over into nearly every business role. But 3 stood out for me personally. First of all, was about keeping calm, especially when there's a lot of emotion around. Natalie built up some fantastic self-discipline so she could retain her calmness. We all need to do that at times in our roles. The second thing that Natalie spoke about that really hooked me in was about prioritisation. What is the next important step? What do you really need to keep focused on? Sometimes in business environments, we do tend to just sort of pick up tasks as we go along. So a lot of these come from the boss who goes to a meeting and makes a promise to somebody to do something immediately. Then that gets passed down the chain of command. But these aren't the real game changers. So sometimes you need the courage to say, no, this is what we really need to work on. And these are the key priorities, and keeping focused on them will deliver change and new opportunities. And finally, don't take things personally. It can be the situation that is really emotionally charging people. So you've got to keep composed. Don't doubt yourself. And remember, people are in need of your skills more than ever in situations like that, which came loud and clear from Natalie's interview. And the final thing that I took was Natalie saying, I took the comfort blanket off. Because when we step out of our comfort zones, that's when real change happens. We really start to develop, utilise skills we've not used for quite a while, and develop new skills and a new level of confidence. So thank you, Natalie, for a fantastic interview today. So in the next section, we're going to go into when the day takes a different turn.
Okay, I would like to introduce Emma B, who will now provide a story. I believe she's going to read out a story from Jenny. So over to you, Emma.
Thanks, Paul. I'm very excited for this one. Jenny has written into us and she said, "Hi team, I enjoyed listening to the first episode and I thought I would write in with a funny story that happened to me. I hope this makes the cut." Yes, it did, Jenny. Back in early 2024, I had applied for a role at a well-known cosmetics company as the head of marketing. After a Zoom interview and a grueling assessment day, I managed to get through to the final interview stage in April. Given the change in seasons and a few nice weeks of good weather, I thought I would move away from dark and gloomy winter luck into something light, bright and uplifting for the interview. After a stressful weekend of rehearsing my interview presentation and thinking of all the questions they would ask me, and spending most of Saturday watching my partner grimace as we entered yet another shop to find an outfit, I felt ready for the interview. My interview was at 9:30 a.m. and I caught an early train from St Albans to London to avoid the peak commute time. I found a Costa Coffee about a 10-minute walk away from the head office where the interview was to take place. I thought a nice treat and a coffee would be perfect to energise me. I found a comfortable table in the quiet part of the cafe. Time passed a little bit too quickly and I realised the time was 9:05 and thought I should quickly head off to the interview. I was now feeling quite relaxed and confident as I headed towards the office in my lovely cream dress and tan blazer. Then panic. I realised I'd left my mobile phone on the sofa chair in Costa. It took me a few minutes to sprint back to Costa. As I headed through the door, I could see someone stood up with my phone in their hand as the table where I was sat. I just kept running to the table and then crash. As I got up from the floor, I realised that my neck and chest were burning. A woman also got up from the floor and I could see one coffee cup on the floor and one crushed in her hand. I could see coffee dripping from my blazer and looked at my dress, which looked like some kind of pop art splatter. I looked at the woman who had escaped the deluge and said that I was extremely sorry and I had rushed in to retrieve my phone. At that moment, a guy passed me some serviettes and asked me if I'd left my phone in the corner seat. I felt a sense of relief as he gave me my phone. My thoughts turned to the woman I'd just crashed into. I then realised she had a familiar-looking face. And then I just said, "I'm so sorry for knocking you over. Can I please buy you 2 new drinks, Emily?" Yes, in my frantic rushing about, I just ran into Emily Blunt. She was so understanding and refused my coffee offer to replenish her drinks. She asked me what they would say at work to my new cream and coffee dress look. I told her I was going to an interview and I just brought the outfit. It was obvious I couldn't disguise the spillage, so here's what Emily offered to do. She said if we can ask someone to take a video of us on my phone, she would explain what happened. I had 3 minutes of fame in Costa Coffee as Emily explained on my phone that the whole accident was her fault and I had looked impeccable before the coffee incident. I was 10 minutes late for the interview and I said I wanted to explain why I was late to the panel before I started my presentation. I put my phone on the desk and played the video. There wasn't much reaction. I didn't think any of them had experienced such a start to the interview. Emily Blunt in Costa Coffee stood next to me explaining how she had clumsily bumped into me, causing the spillage down my front. You would have thought that after that I would have struggled in an hours-long interview. In fact, I excelled, thinking I have nothing left to lose now. In the end, I didn't get the role. However, what a moment in my life. I have dined out quite a lot on this story. Good luck with the show and thanks for sharing my story. Thank you, Jenny from St Albans.
That's brilliant. That is a high bar. So if you've been run over by Tom Cruise on your skateboard or wrestled to the ground by Arnold Schwarzenegger, or if you've just had something unusual happen to you, then that's just so funny, that story. I actually saw a film, I think it around the same time, The Fall Guy with Emily Blunt, and I bet the 3-minute video were better than her performance in the whole of that film. So, Jenny, you need to send the video in. It must be better than Emily's, who was a great actress, by the way. I do like a lot of films, but not that great, I didn't think, in The Fall Guy, but I think that was a script problem. But anyway, we won't go into that. And don't worry, I'm not trying to prove there's life beyond spreadsheets by showing my vast knowledge of films. Over to Paul. Paul's going to give you the address in which you can write your funny stories, unusual stories, strange stories. Paul Raven.
So, guys, if you've got any stories you'd like to share, please can you use the following email address, dog8strategy@gmail.com. That's DOGATESTRATEGY@gmail.com. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, once again, thank you, panel, and thank you for playing along in the Is There Life Beyond Spreadsheets. I think the jury could still be a little out, but there you go. So, thank you, David Johnson.
Thank you very much indeed, Gary. And as I say, Glastonbury's a great place to come.
And Emma B.
Thanks, everyone.
And Paul Raven the Raver.
Thank you very much for listening, and see you next time.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody, for listening to today's show. If you want to listen to this show or a previous episode, then you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even now on Amazon Music. And I do appreciate you listening in. I hope you've enjoyed the last 30 plus minutes and it's made your tea break or your dog walk or your drive on one of the M roads. So thank you very much. Until next time when we have another special guest.